the dying days of March 2025, when the last winter frost still clung to Sheffield's grimy windows, Elliot Reynolds pushed through the door of a charity shop that smelled of mothballs and forgotten lives. At 29, Elliot existed in the spaces between other people's stories. His flat was a tomb of silence. His only human contact came through the glow of his computer screen, where he uploaded fragments of the past, old VHS tapes containing commercials from decades gone by. His followers craved nostalgia for times they'd never lived through. He told himself it was harmless. He was wrong. The shop's fluorescent lights buzzed like dying insects as Elliot rummaged beneath a table draped in musty fabric. His fingers, pale from too many hours in artificial light, brushed against something solid. A cardboard box, unmarked, heavy. Inside, 29 VHS tapes lay stacked like tombstones, each bearing a date in spidery handwriting that seemed to shift when he wasn't looking directly at it. June 12th, 1996. June 12th, 1997. June 12th, 1998. His birthday. Every single one. The shopkeeper, an ancient woman whose eyes were the colour of old milk, watched him from behind the counter. When he asked about the tapes, she smiled with too many teeth. "Been waiting for you," she said, so quietly Elliot almost didn't hear her. He paid £5 for what would cost him everything. When Elliot returned home, his flat felt smaller somehow, as if the walls had crept closer while he was out. He slotted the first tape into his VCR with trembling fingers he couldn't explain. The screen flickered to life. A hospital room, sterile and white. A woman cradling a newborn, her face glowing with exhaustion and joy. The baby's cries echoed through his speakers like a warning. The woman was, unbelievably, his mother. 29 years younger, but unmistakably her. A man's voice from behind the camera, his father's voice, cooed at the infant. "Happy birthday, little Elliot," he said. But this was impossible. His parents had never owned a camcorder. His childhood was a void of missing memories, empty photo albums, stories that changed each time they were told. So who had been watching? The second tape, his first birthday. The kitchen looked exactly as he remembered it, down to the hideous floral wallpaper his mother had always claimed never existed. There he was, a chubby toddler in a Superman costume, cake smeared across his cherubic face. But something moved in the background, a shadow that didn't belong. Elliot rewound, paused, enhanced. A figure stood at the window, tall, impossibly thin, dressed in black that seemed to absorb light. The face was a pale smudge, but Elliot could feel its attention like ice water in his veins. The figure wasn't looking at the birthday boy. It was staring directly into the camera. Tape after tape, year after year, the thing was always there, lurking in doorways, reflected in mirrors, standing motionless in crowds. By his 10th birthday, Elliot realized the truth that made his skin crawl. While everyone else aged, grew, changed, the figure remained exactly the same, frozen in time, waiting. And with each passing year, it seemed to grow closer to the camera, closer to him. His hands shook as he dialed his mother's number. "Mum, I need to ask you about some tapes." The silence stretched so long, he thought the call had dropped. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Where did you find them?" she asked. He explained about finding them in a charity shop, that they were all of him on his birthdays. "Stop watching them," she told him. Burn them. Tonight. Don't watch another second. He started to ask her why, but the line went dead. When he tried calling back, there was no answer. But Elliot couldn't stop. The tapes called to him with a hunger that matched his own. His teenage years flickered past in grainy footage. Awkward birthday dinners, sullen silences, cake eaten alone while his parents worked late. But he remembered those birthdays differently. He remembered being alone, completely alone. But the camera never lied. Someone had always been watching. And in every frame, growing larger, more defined, the figure in black crept closer. Its face was becoming clearer now, pale as bone, with eyes like empty sockets and a mouth that stretched too wide. The most recent tapes were the worst. His 28th birthday, Elliot eating microwave curry in his flat, unaware that something pressed against his window, breathing fog onto the glass in patterns that looked almost like words. The penultimate tape showed the last few days. Elliot at the grocery store, the camera following him through the aisles like a predator stalking prey. The figure walked behind him, close enough to touch, but somehow invisible to everyone except the lens. The footage followed him home, showed him unlocking his door, stepping inside. The figure followed. The camera captured Elliot sleeping, working, showering, every private moment violated by a presence he couldn't see or feel. And always, always, the figure drew closer. In the final scene, Elliot watched himself leave the charity shop, carrying a familiar cardboard box. The last tape was labelled June 12th, 2025. Tomorrow. It was blank. At the moment. Elliot sat in his living room as midnight approached, staring at the empty screen. Every shadow seemed to move. Every creak of the building made him jump. At the stroke of midnight, he heard it. The soft mechanical whir of a tape being inserted into the VCR. But his hands were empty. The machine was across the room. The TV flickered on by itself. Static filled the screen, then cleared to show his living room. Him, sitting on his sofa, staring at the TV in growing horror. He spun around, but the room was empty. On screen, the figure stepped into frame. It had changed. Grown. Its limbs were too long now, joints bending in ways that hurt to look at. Its face was a rictus of hunger, mouth opening to reveal rows of needle-sharp teeth. Elliot watched in paralysed terror as the thing approached his on-screen self, moving with the jerky motion of a broken marionette. He felt breath on his neck. He turned. Nothing. On screen, the figure's hand reached toward the camera, toward him. The TV screen began to bulge outward, as if something was pushing through from the other side. Elliot tried to run, but his legs wouldn't obey. The figure's other hand emerged from the screen, fingers like black twigs, reaching, grasping. The last thing Elliot saw was his own face on the TV, mouth open in a silent scream, as something that had been waiting 30 years finally claimed its birthday gift. Elliot's disappearance barely made the local news. A reclusive man with no friends, estranged from family. These things happened. His belongings were donated to charity, including a box of VHS tapes. The dates on the labels were still there, but they had changed. September 26th, 1996. September 26th, 1997. September 26th, 1998. 29 tapes in total. The box sits in the same charity shop, waiting. The ancient woman behind the counter smiles her too wide smile at each customer who passes. She's very patient. After all, everyone has a birthday, and something is always watching, always waiting, always hungry. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this tale of temporal terror, click that like button and subscribe for more stories that prove some gifts should never be unwrapped. Sweet dreams.